Hey folks, this is Lucy with Ballyhoo Creations, and this is the video tutorial for the apple and banana body dolls, or cloth characters from Ballyhoo Creations. This is the large apple body made in an 8x12, and then the small banana body made in a 5x7 hoop. There's also a medium size which is made in a 6x10 hoop, and that's not shown here. To start out, I'm going to show you how to make the ears because they're part of how the head is put together. So the first step in the ears is to stitch out a placement, which gives you a box that you're going to put fabric over, and the little arrow there shows you the direction of stretch for your stretch fabric. All of these dolls are meant for stretch fabrics. So you just place that fabric and then stitch color 2, that gives the little ear detail that goes inside the ear. Of course, I'm speeding everything up here to save some time. And then you place the back of the ear fabric on top, right side down, and then color 3 does the seams for the ears. And we need to go ahead and complete those ears and get them turned right side out so that we'll have them ready when it's time to stitch them into the seams of the head. So I'm just going to pop those out of the hoop, tear them away from the tearaway stabilizer, cut around the ears, and then I'm going to use some hemostats to turn them inside out, and now they're ready to go. For the head, we do something similar. Stitch color 1, it puts a placement onto your no-show mesh or other lightweight cutaway stabilizer. And paying attention to that direction of stretch arrow that is stitched on, you want to put your face fabric right side up into the hoop. And then stitch color 2, which does sort of a tack down around the perimeter of the face to hold the fabric down. It's not a full, it doesn't go all the way around the border because we need to be able to get in there and stuff the nose in a little bit. And then it'll go ahead and stitch the face. After color 2 is finished, I like to take it off of the machine, leave it in the hoop, and using hemostats put a little bit of stuffing into the nose. This is optional, but it gives your character a lot more personality when there's a little 3D to that face. Then I put it back on the machine, and I'm ready to do the ears. So figure out where you want your ears to go, like how they're going to sit on there. And I'm going to do the right side first. All of the designs do the right ear tack down first. The stem of that ear, the ear is face down, and you put that little stem in the box that's stitched on that tack down. And then this color will actually start in the center of the ear, and it'll go one direction and the other in a straight line. And that should not dislodge the ear the way that this is designed. And then it's going to go over to the left ear and take a few stitches just to make sure that all machines will move over to that position in the middle of the ear. Don't worry if it does those little stitches there, that's intended. And then you put the left ear, again, the right side with the stitches goes down. Put the little stem in the box. It's a little bit hard for me because the camera's in the way. And then go ahead and tack that down, and same thing, you shouldn't need to touch it. Keep your hands out of the hoop when it's moving. This is digitized so that it will not dislodge that ear. It'll hold it in place, and then when you put the backing fabric on, they're right where you want them to be. And again, it does a little bit of stitching off to the side. This is outside of the face. You won't ever see those stitches. This is just to put the needle in the right position so that when we put our back fabric on, and again, we want to make sure that the stretch is going horizontal from ear to ear for the back fabric, right side down. Make sure that top area is covered. And you want to have a little bit of extra at the bottom, like in the chin area. You need a little extra hanging down so that we can do the folding method. The next color is going to stitch some folding dots. So what it's going to do is do a little circle over on the left side, and then it'll move over and do a little circle on the right side. And again, the needle moves to the next position and takes a few stitches. Don't worry about that part. Now we take the bottom fabric or the back fabric and fold it up, and then stitch the next color, which gives you folding dots about an inch above the first set. It might be confusing, but in just a minute you're going to see how this works. So the second set of folding dots is finished, and now we're going to fold that back fabric down again, make sure that that chin area is completely covered, and then cover the entire thing with another layer of no-show mesh. And then the last color stitches the seam all the way around the head twice. So you got a nice strong double stitch seam. And that's it for stitching the head. So let's move on to stitching out the body. Again, placement stitch on your no-show mesh stabilizer or other lightweight cutaway stabilizer. You need the cutaway instead of tearaway because you want something that can stabilize the stretch fabric. So you see there's a long rectangle that says fold in it. That's going to be for the arms. The box you see on the right is for the shirt, and the box on the left will be for the pants. And we'll walk through that. Once that placement stitch is all down on your stabilizer, you use the shirt fabric and make sure that the stretch of the fabric goes in the direction of that arrow that was stitched on the stabilizer. And you want to put it in that box. It's okay if it hangs over towards where the top of the video is, that's okay, but you don't want it to go into the box that says fold in it, because then it'll be in the arms area and it'll mess up the stitching of the arms later on. And then put the pants fabric right side down over the shirt. And then the next step is to stitch a seam. That's going to stitch the shirt fabric and the pants fabric together in the front of the doll. After that waist seam is finished, then you take the pants, that blue fabric there, and you're going to fold it down and kind of just smooth it out. And now we've got the front of the doll ready. We're going to do a tack down stitch next. And that's just going to keep everything in place in the hoop so we know the front of the doll is not going to move around. Now that that's tacked down, we're going to take the pants fabric and put it right side down over that first layer of pants. That's the blue fabric I've got here. You want to line it up to the waist and then just fold a little bit down and make sure that that fold lines up with the stitched waist. That way when we do the side seam, it'll match up. And then take the shirt fabric, right side down again, checking the direction of stretch there, and just overlap it with that waist fold and make sure that the top neck area is covered, and then just put a piece of no-show mesh stabilizer over the back so we can stitch the seams. The last bit for this is to place that long strip that you cut out from the instructions and place that on the fold line. These are going to be the arms and hands, and make sure the fold is on that line that says fold, and then go ahead and stitch those arms and hands together. You don't need to put stabilizer across the back of the arms. It's actually better if you don't. They're easier to turn inside out if you don't have stabilizer. Everything's been stitched out, so I'm going to take it over to the work table and start cutting out the pieces. I've removed everything from their hoops. And the cutting is pretty straightforward, just a few things to mention. As you're cutting out the arms, make sure you get right into that little thumb area and then just clip around. You want about 1/8 of an inch seam allowance when you're using stretch fabric for these patterns. And then also cut the stabilizer away from the arms. You don't need it in there. I like to leave it in the seam, but then just remove it from everywhere else. Nice little worm of arms and hands there. And then to note with the body, once you're cutting out that crotch area, I like to do kind of like a little V shape and then cut that out. That way you can get really close into the legs there and you won't have that pinched look when you turn it inside out. Another thing to mention is there's little tabs where the arm openings are, so make sure that you cut that little tab area. That shows on the tack down stitch, and it should be on your stabilizer. You'll see your bobbin thread in that outline for those tabs. And just finish cutting out the neck. It's almost done. And then for the head, same thing, just cut around the shape. That one's pretty straightforward and goes quick. Make sure you're using really sharp scissors. To open these up, the way that this is intended to work is that there's the front, you see the face, and then this is the back where the fold is. Want to pull the stabilizer away from the fabric a little bit, and then make a little cut in that stabilizer all the way from side to side. And once we've got that cut open, you'll be able to see the fold underneath. There it is right there. And then we also need to cut the fold open. So just make a little snip to cut it open. And I'm going to get bigger scissors here. And then go ahead and cut that fold all the way from one side of the head to the other. Now when you reach in between those cuts, you'll be able to turn it inside out. There's the chin coming through, and then turn the rest of the head. You don't need any tools for this. You should be able to do all the sizes just with your hands. There's his little ears popping out. So the head's done, turned inside out. Now let's get those skinny little arms. I'm going to use some hemostats, and this is actually a $5 pair of hemostats I bought at Walmart. They're in the fishing aisle. They use them for making lures and things like that. I'm not even going to get into what fishermen use hemostats for, but doll makers love them too. So you just reach the hemostats up in there, and then I use my thumbnail to poke the tip into the hemostats and grab it, and then pull it all through. Pops out very nicely that way. And you can also use your hemostats to kind of open things up in there. So now the arms and hands are done, along with the head. Now it's time to get the body opened up. The stretch line is on the front, so you know that the back is where you're going to cut that stabilizer. And then the way that we placed our fabric, we've got a little opening there. Again, I'm using those $5 hemostats. I have better pairs, but I wanted to make sure I could do this with just the easiest, most readily available hemostats that you can buy at Walmart. And it worked just great on all these sizes. And then I'm just turning inside out with my hands there. Again, hemostats to get the neck makes it much easier. And then just open everything out, kind of push those seams out. Before I get to the stuffing, I wanted to talk about the apple body is actually a little easier to do than the banana body because of the size of them. The banana body is very skinny, and this is the small that's done in a 5x7. This is just a little proof of concept. I wanted to show that it can be turned inside out with those $5 hemostats that I got. And this is a very small body. It has a stabilizer in there and everything. I was able to turn the arms and the hands and the body all inside out using the hemostats. It does take a little bit of patience, but it can be done. So just be patient, go slowly. Anytime you're new to turning things inside out, it takes a little bit of practice, but you can master this. There's nothing really special about the stuffing here. Just make sure that the stuffing goes between the layers of stabilizer. The exception to that, though, is if you want to do some body sculpting, you can put the stuffing between the stabilizer and the stretch fabric to get different shapes, like maybe round out the back of the head, or a little bit later I'm going to show you how to put a little booty on this one. So here I'm just stuffing the legs, and hemostats, again, your best friend when you want to get stuffing into places like the feet or the hands. It is the right tool for the job. This is triple speed. Trust me, I'm not this fast. Just putting a little bit of stuffing in the arms. I also like to put pipe cleaners in the arms, and I think I'm going to do that here. Just bend the ends because you don't want any sharp points. And again, I've said this in every doll making video I do. Do not put wiring in dolls made for children. These are more like art dolls or home decor, and it's okay to put wiring for those, but if this is for a small child, don't even put the pipe cleaners in. It's just not very safe. But the pipe cleaners make you can get some shape there. So the reason I did the little thumbs up there is to say the thumbs should be pointing up when you put the arms in the doll. That is something to note. Just finished stuffing the body here. And the arm openings are pretty wide, so you can also stuff through there too. You've got 3 different points to stuff these bodies from, both the apple and the banana, from the back flap and also the arms on both sides. You do want to make sure the neck is firmly stuffed because that needs to go up into the head and hold it on. You can stuff your doll or cloth character as loosely or firmly as you want, and there's also a separate tutorial on how to put a wire armature in your cloth character that makes them posable. You could do a stop motion puppet with them even. But for this one, I'm just going to stuff it a little loosely. and I like to glue my seams closed. I'm using a glue bottle or a henna bottle, something like that, and then I put my Fabrifix fabric glue into the bottle. It has a very fine tip, and I can get the glue exactly where I want it. That's another tool every doll maker should have. Just using clips and pins to hold the fabric in place while the glue dries. If you are a hot glue junkie, you can use hot glue on these as well. I burn my fingers something horrible, so I don't like hot glue at all. I prefer the Fabrifix, or you could also use like the Eileen's fabric glue or anything that will hold fabric works here. So I'm making sure that the arms are all the way at the top of that shoulder seam there, adding a little bit of glue, clipping it while the glue dries. Same thing on the other side. Just tuck those tabs in. Glue the front and back of the arm. I like to hold that in place, and you can see I've got still a little hole there where I can add a little bit more stuffing to fill out the body if I want to. I'm going to add a little bit more into the face because I noticed a little bit of the soft spot there. And the neck slides into the back flap on the head. You can glue or hand stitch. Since I'm not going to be giving this doll to a child, so I'm going to go ahead and glue it. If you wanted an heirloom creation, I do believe hand stitching is the way to go. Just going to clamp that down until the glue dries. And then take all the pins out, and I realized I put them on backwards. Yes, I do make mistakes quite a bit. So I had to pull his head off because the booty, the little 2 wads of stuffing that I put in the back there that you can see, then I put him facing his, behind. So that's not good. So I took the head off and re-glued it on the right way. Put a little bit more stuffing in the sides there to fill him out, and then I'm just going to glue those up. Clip them until they dry, and he will be finished. He just needs some hair, and I'm going to do something a little different here with his hair. There is a wig file that comes with every head that you get from Ballyhoo Creations. There's a wig that will fit them, and that's for faux fur. But in this case, I'm going to use some fur yarn. This is called Go for Faux by Lion Brand yarn, and I really like how big and fluffy it is. So I'm just going to actually get the big glue bottle out and put a lot of glue on the back of the head. I just wrapped this yarn around my hand like maybe 4 or 5 times to get an amount that I liked, and I'm just going to kind of place it on his head and glue down certain parts. Make sure a little glue is stuck in there, and then just press down any parts that seem to be coming up. I go ahead and glue those down, and he's got a nice little fur wig in just, wow, a couple minutes there. So that was it, start to finish, with the apple body we did in the 8x12 hoop, and then also a little bit with the 5x7 banana body. The apple body has the apple head on it there. This is the an older version of the innocent head on that little gal there. Here's another version of the banana on the left and the apple on the right. This is the banana head with body and the apple head with the body. And these guys have the full wired armatures, so they're fully posable. That's it for this video tutorial of the apple and banana bodies. Hop over to ballyhoocreations.com for these machine embroidered designs where we've got quirky characters for the inspired sewist. Now go make some stuff.